Well, guys, before we get this thing rolling along too much, I got my LA hat on. I mean, it's just been unreal what I've been watching out in the Los Angeles area with those fires, man. Can you imagine dealing with that? We're sitting in Michigan. We have tornadoes we got to worry about and snowstorms. Matt, you had the big flood you just missed out on that hurricane, but
Yep,
could have
hurricane.
been devastating. But I can't even imagine what these people in LA are dealing with this fire.
It is crazy. I saw some people post. I saw someone post something about that, and obviously, yes, our thoughts are obviously with all the people out there in LA. And someone posted something like kind of what you're saying, like come to Michigan where there's no hurricanes, where there's no forest fires, where there's no, kind of doing one of those kind of lists.
Right?
But there are forest fires in Michigan. I mean,
Oh,
you
yeah.
guys know. Think about it in the summertime. They'll have that like I forget what they call it, like no fire ban or whatever, because
Yeah.
it's so dry outside. So that can be a thing in Michigan. It's just crazy when you see it, out there. I mean, it really is a natural thing. Hopefully, these ones didn't start because an arsonist, did something stupid, but sometimes it just starts and then it spreads. And the way the wind blows, it blows those embers and it just spreads and spreads and spreads. And it's just insane to think about, like, how long it's going to take to rebuild all that. I mean, that it was a wide, I haven't seen the final like square footage, I guess, of destruction, but I mean, how do you clean all that stuff up and then rebuild all those houses? I mean, I don't know, will that ever be done? Or, like, years and years and years it's going to take to rebuild all that.
No kidding.
It's crazy because there's nothing you can do.
Right.
Like they're doing everything they can, and it's just once a fire gets that big, you just kind of have to let it burn its course. And yeah, it's like every day you see a new celebrity whose house got burned up. So it is wild. It's just jarring to think that a natural disaster, which I don't know, is arsonry, is that the word you would use for it? Is that actually being theorized that that's what happened?
Oh, they're looking at it for sure. I've read. I'm not sure it was validated, but they've looked at a couple suspects that started a couple of the fires. They think.
Right. Well, yeah,
Crazy.
now they're kind of catching people now going out and starting fires in the city and,
Yeah.
being idiots and doing stuff
Dear
like
Lord.
that. Just,
What's
of course,
wrong with
part of
people?
it is like people trying to get famous on social media, or some people recording them. I did see one crazy video. Again, I watched the video. I read a couple of the comments. I didn't dig super deep, but it seemed legit. It was a group of like 6 friends, maybe Jared's age, hiking out there in LA, in those hills, around the Hollywood sign or around that area. When the fire started, they were out there hiking, and all of a sudden one of the kids started, "Man, you guys smell smoke? Do you smell smoke?" And they started like looking around, and the smoke was starting to billow out of and then they just like took off running. So that was kind of crazy. And I saw some other people post videos like in their house being surrounded by fire, and like, you just start thinking, like, what would you do? You try and grab a few things out of your house, but like at some point you just got to get the heck out of there.
Yeah.
And then even in that situation, like, what do you grab? Like, you probably have a few things that are super important to you, or whatever, but like, I don't know. I don't even know like what you would do. Hop in the car and just drive, and you just get the heck out of there.
It's kind of interesting timing. I'll tell a brief little story about a book I actually just read maybe a month ago. It's called Young Men and Fire, and it's almost like an Edmund Fitzgerald type story from the 1950s, where it's about smoke jumpers. There's this fire in the Man Gulch of Montana. It's like a national park, and it's basically like basically a valley. And the 18-year-old paratroopers and one 30-year-old who's the leader smoke drop in on this mountain, and they set up their whole plan how they're going to put it out. As they're walking to the fire, the wind basically entirely did a 360 and swirled, and it made it so it caught on fire behind them. And so basically this group of 18 kids are getting surrounded by fire, and the main head guy, basically there's 2 decisions you have to make in this moment. We can either try sprinting up this huge hill with rocks and pray that we make it out before the fire encloses them, or this other guy, I'm blanking on his name, but he's the leader of the crew. What he does, it's like ingenious. They've never heard of this strategy before. He realizes they're getting closed in by fire. He lights a fire at his feet. The fire spreads around him. He lays down in like the dead grass that had already been lit on fire, and the fire just went around him as he laid down face down in the ground with a thing over his mouth, basically did his history. So he survived. All these 18 other kids basically said, this guy's an idiot. Like, we're not going to do that. Like, we take off running. Only 2 of the guys that took off running up the hill outlasted the fire. And it's like been 75 years since that's happened. And people, they still tell the story about it every year on the news. The Man Gulch fire. It's worth a look up on YouTube.
Yeah.
I went down a rabbit hole for probably 2 hours about this story. Just a weird story that these fires happen to remind me of. And it's amazing that we thought we knew nothing about firefighting back then. We still really don't know anything. And we're still just basically just as helpless against a big fire like that. So kind of a weird tangent, but worth looking into.
No, that's super interesting. That's one of those stories that, I don't know, like, yeah, you read the book, you fall down a rabbit hole because you want to hear more about it. And if there is a documentary or if there's an interview with that guy or stuff like that, like, right. Yeah, you'd be interested to hear all that stuff. And it is fires, like tsunamis, floods, all that kind of stuff. It almost makes you like have a moment of realization of like how helpless we really are against this kind of stuff. People who built their houses like in New Orleans in a very, very low below sea level area, like at some point a natural disaster is going to happen. If you build your houses in this area where forest fires happen, like at some point something like that might happen. And it just makes me think, like, you see all these people say stuff about like, where are the firefighters? Where's the government? Where's like all the help and stuff like that? Yes, there's probably a little bit they can do, but to an extent, like kind of like what you said, like what are they supposed to do when this fire is as big as the city of LA? Like, you're not going to take a hose out there and like hose out right. This fire. Like, to an extent, you have to just let it go and hope that you could do some stuff to control it, but you can't just like take one fire truck out there and spray this fire out,
So are all the people whose houses are getting lost, like, it's just a sudden cost? They're not getting like house insurance, or how does that work?
Some have insurance, but there's been a big controversy on the insurance companies had canceled people because of the high risk out there, or the rates were so outrageously high. It's really bad, and this is the kind of thing where, we're not going to get into the whole political thing, but this is where the government has to step in and help. Right. And I think they have made some inroads on what they've said they're going to do. But I was thinking the first thing, I think of money. Right. And what a spot to be if you're a building contractor. Yeah. Think about that.
Right.
Yeah. Especially out there with, celebrities with
right.
Most of them have a good amount of money. It's kind of like that. You say that I'd never heard that they were starting to do away with insurance out there because of the risk. It's like in Florida, you hear people can't even get insured down there because of the hurricanes. Like, right. A lot of areas down there don't offer hurricane insurance anymore because it's basically like, swim at your own risk type of thing. Like, if you want to build your house here, go for it. But there's going to be a hurricane at some point and we're not insuring it. But it's just crazy to see the devastation and stuff. And that's just what I think about is like, how, like, one, to clean it up, how long is that going to take? And then, like you said, Ted, like, finding all the contractors and stuff to rebuild all these houses. And,
I know,
all the people who have now been misplaced or displaced, they got to move, or what are they going to do? They just got to find hotels. They got to find like different place to live and stuff. It's just wild.
Do you guys find it really annoying, or maybe it doesn't bother you at all, when you do go on social media, especially X, Twitter, whatever it's called nowadays, and see people just jump on things immediately with conspiracies and, this party's to blame, the mayor's to blame, the governor's to blame. I mean, my God, people just go nuts when something like this happens.
Oh yeah. Not to use a pun, but it catches like wildfire too. Like once one thing, someone starts going with some sort of conspiracy, it snowballs and it turns into something crazy. And that's one thing too. I mean, not to get super deep into this, but I saw a lot of people kind of like what you're saying, probably on the post you're talking about, saying like, who cares about the people out there? It's just a bunch of rich celebrities, they'll rebuild. Who cares? Saying stuff like that. And it's like, not that I like, follow celebrities super close. I'm not like someone that watches all the gossip shows and gossip magazine, all that stuff. But like, it's still people. Those are still humans out there. And yes, they have the money. They'll probably be able to rebuild a huge mansion. They'll be fine. But it's still about like, when you your house burns down and you lose literally everything. Like that's a lot of memories, and there might be a lot of sentimental stuff and
Sure.
all that. So like, it's not just the money part of it. Like, yeah, they'll probably be okay. They'll rebuild their house, but like have a little compassion, like it's still pretty big deal out there.
All right, this is episode 343 of the 3 Point Podcast, presented by the Memorial Healthcare Wellness Center. Over 25 fitness classes and access to all their top-notch amenities. More info can be found at memorialhealthcare.org and the socials at Memorial Healthcare Wellness Center. Also want to thank our other great partners. They include AZee Branding Solutions, Jacobs Insurance Agency, Kori and Associates Real Estate Services, Nelson House Funeral Homes, Rivals Taphouse and Grille, Success Group Mortgage and Servicing, the Shiawassee County Fair, and ALS of Michigan. We'll take a short pause and come back and start the program with the Prep Spotlight right after this. All right, guys, I'm going to move right into the Prep Spotlight presented by the Jacobs Insurance Agency, local, independent, and trusted. And, I'm going to give this team a lot of love this basketball season. Freeland, they downed Petoskey 75-34. The Falcons improved to 9-1 as Wilson Huckabee finished with 15 points on 5 3-pointers. Johnny Fattel has them playing some pretty good basketball right now, and it's a team to keep an eye on as we get closer to March.
Yeah, their sights are set on a long tournament run, so the regular season, and obviously they want to win a conference title, but pretty much everything's just building toward March time, and hopefully, the chips will fall in the right way, and they can make a long run, hopefully all the way to the Breslin Center. We'll see, though. They're all juniors, so it's a little bit of a younger team. They're definitely still building up toward probably their peak next year, but very, very damn good team this year as well, so.
Is Petoskey, is that a conference game for them? Is Petoskey?
No, they went to a tournament last year at Petoskey where they played Grand Ledge in the championship. And so I think this was just a way to play Petoskey because they didn't get the chance to last year in that tournament.
Yeah, and it was one of those cool things, too, where I wish we'd see more of it. Saturday night special, They had a Friday game, but then they followed it up with the Saturday night game, and that's a great thing to do every once in a while, I think.
Yeah.
Also in some other basketball, Corunna down Brandon 70-56. Cavs got their first Flint Metro League win, improved to 3-7 on the season now. 70 points, their high total of the year. Oda Wilkerson had 15 in that one for Corunna. Chesaning down Durand 57-51. The Indians improved to 6-3 as Max Volk and Luke Barta combined for 35. It was Langsburg over Saranac 51-49. Mitchell George, fighting off an ankle injury, led the way with 15. New Lothrop down to Montrose 41-34. Brady Coleman had 16 for the Hornets, and St. John's over Lansing Eastern 51-49 in the Castle Game of the Week Friday. Hunter Kinkema had 23. Before we get off the boys basketball, there was a big boys basketball game down in your area, Jared. Orchard Lake St. Mary, the number one player in the country, took on the number one team in the country.
Right.
Sounded like would have loved to have gone to that game.
Yeah, it was played at Oakland. It was versus IMG Academy and Darius Acuff, who played for Castech and is committed to Arkansas with John Calipari. As a freshman, they won the state title at Castech. Then he went to IMG last year. So yeah, it was a pretty sweet game. It was a sold out crowd at Oakland, and it was a compelling game. It was close. I think Orchard Lake St. Mary's had a lead late into the fourth and ended up kind of relinquishing it late, but a pretty damn good game from what I understand. So pretty cool that, I don't love the whole IMG thing, but hey, if they're going to go up to Michigan and be willing to play our teams, I think that's awesome. I mean, it was a really cool environment from what I saw, but tough to get a ticket to be honest.
Oh, yeah.
It was at Oakland University, you said?
Yeah.
That's pretty cool that they played it in, a little bit of a bigger gym.
And sold it out.
Sold it out,
Right.
It is cool. So MHSAA allows that kind of stuff? Because we've talked about that before, like in football, they don't allow.
You can't travel more than like 250 miles, I believe. So they didn't Orchard Lake didn't travel. It was technically IMG that did all the traveling. So I believe.
So as long as whatever school comes to Michigan, by all means,
absolutely.
Orchard Lake St. Mary just couldn't go down to IMG and play.
I believe, they could go 300 miles away. So
gotcha.
Yeah, so they could probably play some of those charter schools that are in Chicago or something like that, but not. Yeah, they can't drive with Florida or fly to Florida.
Yeah, they have changed their rules a little bit there with the travel distance, and like you said, Ohio, Indiana, and maybe parts of Illinois they're able to go to depending on the mileage. In girls basketball, it was New Lothrop over Montrose, and Kate Wendling led the way with 16 for the Hornets in that one. And Owasso girls, 42-34 over Clio. Danica Dwyer had 18 in that one. And in swimming and diving, you don't hear this very often. Owasso 139-43 over Brandon Goodrich. Trojans took first place in all 12 events. So pretty good swimming team there for the Trojans, it sounds like. How about you guys? You got anything else you want to add to the spotlight?
No, I just got one quick thing. So it's the Jacobs Insurance Prep Spotlight. So
Yep.
I kind of a funny story, but my coworker, so he just got his name is Donald, good dude. He just had he just fixed up his car for $2,000, going down the highway, all of a sudden hit a patch of ice, hit the barricade, car is totaled. So he's in kind of a tough spot of just getting it fixed. He's listening to the 3 Point Podcast. He hears Jacobs Insurance, and he goes, "Hey, what's the deal with these guys? I need new insurance." I said, "Here's my guy Noah's number. He'll get you set up within 30 minutes." He was in and out of the dealership in 30 minutes with a new car and got everything he wanted from Jacobs Insurance. So if you're a listener and you need new car insurance or whatever the whole entire deal is, reach out to Noah and the entire Jacobs Insurance team. They'll get you set up quickly. And he that's from a guy, he lives down in the west side of the state in Croswell, Lexington. So they cover everybody, man. Yeah. It's not just a Owasso area, and there's obviously a Waterford branch down this way too. So Jacobs Insurance for the win.
That's awesome. See, it pays off. Listening to 3 Point Podcast, maybe you hear some about Jacobs Insurance, maybe Success Group Mortgage. You think, hey, actually, I'm looking to refinance my home or something. See, this pays off.
Little sponsor love. I like it there. Yeah. Right off the cuff. No rehearsal on this podcast. That's for sure.
Exactly. I just looked it up. You were mentioning the travel distance, about 250 or 300 miles for the MHSA requirements. And I was thinking, Freeland to Petoskey, that's got to be a decent little hike. I did a quick Google, about 167 miles. So that's approaching the MHA. Like, I wonder if it's within the state or outside of the state.
I wonder if it's out of state, if that's how they characterize it.
Oh, okay. Right? So I was going to say, like, if a Detroit school went to play Petoskey, that would definitely be over that.
Or a Detroit school go play some like Marquette. I mean, they can do that. Yeah, for sure.
Okay.
All right, guys, good stuff there. Prep Spotlight, and there you go. And if you are a potential partner, you just heard the testimonial. We don't turn down partners. So if you have any interest in being part of the podcast, just get a hold of us. All right, let's take a short break again, get into some football, both college and pro, right after this. All right, guys, I think we could talk college, but that's a little bit behind us, and we got a preview of the national championships. Let's start out in the NFL. Lions sitting home, watching all the wild card stuff go down. Most of the games were pretty chalk, but there was one decent game out of the wild card weekend. But, boy, we talked about it on the last podcast. Sam Darnold might have just cost himself a couple of bucks.
Man, the last two games, I mean, 3 weeks ago, whatever it was the locker room video of him coming in and everyone showering him with water. Kevin O'Connell sitting there watching like a proud parent. Mm-hmm. And everyone was like, man, Sam Darnold is about to get a max deal. What are the Vikings going to do with J.J. McCarthy? The Vikings are about to make a run to the Super Bowl. And then the Lions shut him down. And then they go into, they played in Arizona, but they go into L.A. They play the Rams. And the Rams do the exact same thing. And yeah, like you said, I mean, I think he's probably still going to get a good deal from someone, but the Vikings definitely have to be thinking like, geez, he had a great season. Of course, he had an awesome season, but in the two biggest games of the year, the game to win the number 1 seed and the first round of the playoffs, he laid 2 eggs and, I mean, went right back to the Sam Darnold that's been bouncing around the league. So I'll be very curious to see what they do because they got J.J. McCarthy sitting there. We love J.J. McCarthy, of course, as Michigan fans, but he's a rookie. I mean, essentially, he's a rookie. Hasn't touched the field. You don't know what you're going to get out of him. I think we all probably think he's going to be pretty good, but you're going to let Darnold go and just hope that McCarthy is healthy and able to lead you guys to the playoffs. It's going to be interesting to see what they do.
It makes you wonder what the hell, like, does the intensity really ratchet up just that much where a quarterback who can win 14 to 15 games in the regular season is like, looks like he can't even throw a forward pass. Like when it really gets to that pressure points, it's amazing how different he looks. And I mean, it was like almost accepted. Like they were going to trade JJ McCarthy. It felt like when this was at its fever pitch, It was like, oh, they're going to trade JJ, get back a first-round pick for him, and Darnold's going to be given the key. It's like, now it's like, I'd be shocked if it's not JJ McCarthy starting game number 1 next year. He'd really have to be not ready for them to turn the keys over to him. This has shown like Darnold was a fun story, and he's a serviceable backup or a quarterback on a team that is, bottom tier of the league. But he had all the keys everything in the right place for him to take this team all the way to maybe the Super Bowl. And when the pressure ratcheted up just a hair, he reverted back to the Darnold of old. I don't know how you unsee what you just saw. If you're a Vikings fan, if you're a player in that locker room, if you're a head coach, Kevin O'Connell, if you're the GM, it's time to turn the keys over to JJ McCarthy.
Yeah, and in fairness, it wasn't all his fault, but you have to step up as a quarterback in that situation. I agree with you. JJ is going to be the guy, I think, from the get-go. Even if they sign Daniel Jones as the backup and keep him as the bridge guy, you're going to get him for less of a contract than Darnold at this point, probably. And I just think after these last 2 games, when the money's on the line, they have to cut bait from Darnold, don't you think? I mean, they're not going to sign him.
I mean, especially if you're talking about a max contract, and that's probably what he's going to be looking for. Now, if he takes some crazy, insane pay cut, veteran minimum, all right, sure, come on back if you want that. But you'd think at this point in his career, he's looking for like one more really good contract, to get him through. And I don't know, like, okay, cool. So they were at 14-2 before the Lions game. So you had your team at 14-2 with a position for the 1 seed. That's pretty good, But then in the 2 biggest games, I mean, you didn't get it done. I don't know how as a head coach you can look at your locker room and be like, okay, let's give this guy a max deal and he's our number 1 quarterback going forward. It's kind of like, dude, he just showed us what he is. So even though they probably wouldn't say it that way, but it'll be interesting. And it just makes me think, man, like we kind of said it last week or I don't know, a couple weeks ago or something that like Matthew Stafford in the Rams, it's Sean McVay and Matthew Stafford. Like as long as they're healthy, as long as Cooper Kupp is healthy, Puka Nacua, as long as he has his weapons, Higbee, I don't know how you count the Rams out. That offense. I mean, I'm honestly, I'm kind of glad that it fell the way that it did, that the Rams aren't coming to Detroit and playing the Lions. I would still be very confident in the Lions, but I don't want to see Matthew Stafford again coming to Detroit. Like we've already done that. We've done that a couple times. Hopefully we don't have to do that again, because as long as they're healthy and kind of like clicking, that Rams offense can beat anyone. And, it's kind of like the Lions right now. It's like, I wouldn't count the Lions out of any game because of the offense, and I wouldn't count the Rams out of any game because of that offense. So what do you guys think about, so obviously the way it shook out, it's the Washington Commanders coming to Detroit, rookie quarterback, great story. I mean, he's probably going to be rookie of the year. If not, he should be up there. Jaden Daniels, their quarterback. Great story. Cliff Kingsbury, their offensive coordinator. I mean, that offense is pretty wild to watch. Jaden Daniels he's looking like he's going to be one of the next great QBs in the NFL. Rookie QB though, a rookie QB in the playoffs coming to Ford Field, that place is going to be absolutely electric, as we like to say. And the stat that stands out to me that's been noted multiple times, they're 30th in the league versus the run. And if there's a strength of the Lions, especially with David Montgomery coming back, it's running the ball. So I mean, it's the playoffs. You never know. But do you guys think this is a home run? This is the matchup we wanted as the Lions, or is it kind of,
I'll say first, yes, that was the matchup I wanted.
We match up very well with everything you laid out. Like I said, their rushing defense is bad. Rookie quarterback, you would think Aaron Glenn is licking his chops a little bit. We know Jay Daniels is amazing. 13 wins. You don't luck into that. Although we just joked about Sam Darnold. Maybe he did luck into 14 wins. But no, Jane Daniels is legit. To me, I just wanted them because it's a new team. It's a new face. Yeah. I didn't want to see the Vikings again. Definitely didn't want to see the Rams. That's maybe the one team I would be very scared of. So I'm loving it. It's a fun new team. We get to see playoff time. I think it's going to be really a fun game. Lions are 8.5-point favorites. It's crazy. Your first thought is, wow, how is any team 8.5-point favorites, in the playoffs, especially the second round? But the Lions are just that good. So I'm ready to watch this game. I really think we're gonna hit the ground running. Our offense is gonna get back on track after what wasn't a super great game versus the Vikings a couple of weeks ago. But no, I love everything about this game. Just the fact that we avoided that retread of the Vikings, which I wouldn't have had any juice toward that game. The fact we avoided that is a good thing.
Yeah.
I was looking up real quick because I didn't want you. I was when you were talking there, man. I was looking up. JJ McCarthy had a subtweet. You know he loves the subtweets at the most inopportune times. Amor Fati is what he tweeted as soon as they lost. Apparently, it means love of fate, which is basically how it says. It's a stoic philosophy that encourages people to embrace all aspects of life, including suffering and loss, as opportunities for growth. The second I saw that, he's starting next year, and he probably didn't want them to lose, but he's got to be just about as happy as anybody with how that flamed out, knowing that's probably his keys to the kingdom next year. So anyway, I can't wait to watch Lions versus Commanders. Are you guys worried at all though about Jaden Daniels? I mean, he really is that good. We've seen mobile quarterbacks light us up in the past. We couldn't even cover Josh Allen. If we played Josh Allen for 100 straight quarters, he would have put up 3 zillion points. Like we just couldn't stop him no matter what. Are you guys worried at all about a mobile quarterback who definitely has some juice, and this team has really rallied behind him? Are we ignoring what is potentially a damn good team here? Is what I'm saying.
you got to worry a little bit. I mean, hey, they're where they're at because they're pretty good. They're well coached, and yeah, Jaden Daniels, he's a threat. I mean, but I trust in Aaron Glenn at this point. I mean, the Rams used the Aaron Glenn defense in their win. So yeah, they worry me, but I think the spread's probably pretty accurate. I think the Lions by a touchdown is fair.
Yeah, I mean, I think it all comes down to, and I was watching the Manning cast last night with Bill Belichick, and they were asking him about, just some different changes that you make or game plan things when you get into the playoffs. And he was kind of talking about game plan might not change a whole lot. You just hope that you win the turnover battle or you don't beat yourself. We saw a lot of teams over the weekend. The Chargers, Justin Herbert, I don't know what happened to him, throwing picks all over the place. Baker Mayfield, a couple fumbles. I mean, we saw CJ Stroud threw some picks. Like, you don't want to beat yourself. And for the most part, Jared Goff has been very good at that, taking care of the ball. He obviously has had a couple games where he threw some picks. So hopefully, I think if we win the turnover battle, Jaden Daniels is probably going to make a few wow plays. That's like, oh, geez, is this Josh Allen? Are we seeing what happened with the Bills? But like you guys said, I think Aaron Glenn maybe learned something from that Bills game. Maybe that's a good thing that we got whooped up on by the Bills and Josh Allen just torched our defense. And we've got a couple guys coming back, obviously. Hopefully everyone who's able to come back anyway is pretty fresh. Offensive line, fresh. David Montgomery, hopefully he's, pretty good to go. Gibbs will be, getting that bye was so big for the Lions that honestly, I don't think you could tell me the 85 Bears or whatever are coming to Detroit, and I would still be confident in the Lions right now. I mean, I think they're in the best spot, and you just got to play their game. I think that's what it comes down to. Play your game, don't turn the ball over, and I think they'll be fine.
The one matchup I'm looking forward to watching, it's obviously going to have a big say in who wins, but I'm still going to be confident in the Lions, even if he gets shut down. But Amon-Ra and Mikey Sandersill, I can't wait to watch those two duke it out. Sandersill's probably going to be on him a lot, I would guess, in man coverage. So I'm just looking forward to watching those two guys go at it. But the one thing that's going to be funny, wait for the storyline to come, like Tuesday, Wednesday, midweek this week. A rookie quarterback in Ford Field. I went to that game at Ford Field this year. It is the loudest environment I've ever been in. I've been to the Big House numerous times, Ohio State games, all that. But Jaden Daniels will brush it aside and say, "Oh, it's not going to affect me because I played in the SEC." It'll come. It'll be the SEC comment about how the environments they play in are so amazingly hard. No, you're not ready for Ford Field, man. Right? We're going to be loud. So,
speaking of Ford Field, I saw. Are you guys, Ted? Are you ready to drop about $500, $600, $700 to go down there? I saw tickets as low as like $460 at Ford Field, so it only goes up from there. But someone threw out a graphic. The other 3 games were like as low as $150 around there. They basically said like you could buy a ticket to all 3 other games for the price of a ticket at Ford Field. It's insane to me. I mean, I think it shows the Lions fan base how much they love the Lions, man. I mean, it kind of stinks because some people say like it's pricing out the regular guy, you know, like that wants to take his family of 4 or 5, you know, can't drop $3,000 just to go to a football game. But that's the demand. I mean, people want to go to Ford Field for this game.
Yeah, unfortunately, those days of taking your family to a game, those are long gone. It just is. It's not going to happen.
Yeah.
You got to be rich.
Unless you can find a crazy deal or something like that, or you can find the one random game that is against, like, I don't know, the Falcons that no one really cares about. You know, maybe you can find one of those, but.
Well, you know, and we've talked about it before. It's become so corporate. I mean, even if you look ahead to the Super Bowl, no, I'm not going to shell out $450 for a Lions playoff game. I'd love to, but not going to happen. I'm trying to save all my pennies for the sliver of a chance I'll go to the Super Bowl. But you know, when you look at the Super Bowl, and even when I was talking about these contests I'm getting in, it's all corporate stuff. Shouldn't and we talked about it, I think, before. Shouldn't the NFL mandate that you have 20,000 seats, something like that go up for lottery to the normal person at face value? I mean, to me, that seems like a no-brainer, but it'll never happen because, you know, greed and money and everything else that runs it.
The Super Bowl crowd is kind of the worst because it's all celebrities. It's basically a neutral, which is how it should be. I mean, it is the damn Super Bowl, but yeah, to me, I don't have a huge, like, I don't blame the Lions for these tickets being so high for these playoff games. That's just kind of the sad reality, and it makes it so that those people that go, man, they really want to go, and they're going to be good fans in Ford Field when they get in there. So, but I'm with you. The Super Bowl is a big problem. At the end of the day, this is like the most, you know, common phrase. It's all about the Benjamins, but to me, the NFL usually seems to have their fans at the front of their mind. A lot of times, it feels like maybe I'm just an idiot for believing that, and I'm surprised that there hasn't been something like that installed to help with that. Because you're right, it's a freaking shame. There still will be, I bet you, a lot of Lions fans that will go when they make it. Oh yeah, but not the diehard fans that we see pretty much at a Ford Field every week. No,
right? Yeah. No, this is a topic we could talk about for a few minutes. I'm one. So you're the. I've got a few things. Sure. The contest that you're getting in, I've seen people, not only now is it just hard because it's all corporations and, you know, those online contests that you're trying to get in, those lotteries and all that stuff, because there's corporations trying to get in and everything. Now people can set up like algorithms. They can set up their computers to do it for themselves. So you, Ted, you by yourself are getting on your computer and doing it. But you got to think there's some dude that's like got 70 computers just on a formula, just going boom, 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 join it. I've seen people say, Jared, you probably, and Ted, you do too, know about the Masters lottery, how you can get your Masters tickets, you know? And I've seen people say that's even become a little bit of a racket because people set up basically like a farm, like a Bitcoin farm, basically, to just join the lottery over until they get tickets. So cool, Ted, you're hitting submit one time every day. But the chances of you winning one of those contests is as slim as I don't even know.
Well, tell you what, I'm right with what you just said, and I understand that, and now I'm really depressed.
No, keep doing it though, because if you do it, that'll be the coolest story ever.
No, but what you're saying makes sense, and you're right. With today's technology, by chance is so minute, it's not going to happen.
So low. And the one thing I'm never one to like tell people how to spend their money. People say like, I wish Elon Musk's and Jeff Bezos, they would donate all this. People spend their money how they want to spend it. It's their money. But one thing I always say, if I was ever to win the Mega Millions or, one of those stories people always talk about, 500 million billionaire type thing, I would 100% do that, buy a block of 30,000 tickets to the Super Bowl or, whatever, and go right to Detroit and just be like, here, real fans, I'm giving these tickets away for $5 or just give them away. I think that would be something cool.
Assholes out there, they would flip it right around and resell.
Right.
Yeah.
That's true.
You try to do something nice for people and it would immediately turn to a bad situation.
That's true.
That's what sucks. It is. I'm with you. It's great in theory. People just suck, man, and they would turn that evil.
Hey, to me, hey, listeners. Well, let me just jump in real quick. Hey, listeners. I'm not asking for a GoFundMe page, but if you have any lines on the Super Bowl ticket, I'm willing to pay.
Actually, you know what? I bet with social media and with, everything, we could probably get something going. You've been a Lions fan for 70 years, never seen a Super Bowl, never seen even,
Come on,
the
help
Lions.
a guy out.
We could be like, let's get this guy to the Super Bowl for one time. And I bet we could raise, a little bit of money.
You need a story to it. What is there's a lot of, what's the catch? How do you get people to
just that he's an old Lions fan.
I was there thick and thin. I was there when Joe Schmidt played, man. Come on. Hashtag since 57.
Exactly. You've got the jersey. There's the story.
Right.
I'll also say, last thing I'll say on the ticket prices, do kids, like you're talking about how, like, take the whole family out, like that doesn't happen anymore. Do kids need to be going to NFL games? Like, you go to one, like I went to one when I was a kid. I think that's the right amount. You go to one game, you see the magic one time, and then you kind of live the rest of your life thinking how awesome that was. And when you're an adult, now you can make a way for yourself to pay to either somehow get on the field, to be an NFL player, be a coach, I don't know, work behind the scenes in sales. Find a way to be able to get to that game more once you're an adult. I find it crazy, kids who are getting like $400 tickets to go to these games like every week. I don't know.
Right.
I'm the jerk because I'm not going to it, and I didn't. But it almost seems like spoiled in a way. It's like one or two games, maybe in your lifetime as a kid, and then you can do the rest when it's your money. But I don't feel bad for those quote unquote families that are missing out.
Right. Especially when all the kid wants to do is eat popcorn and
get slushies,
big giant slushies, and has to go to the bathroom 4 times every quarter. So you're missing half the game anyway.
Yeah, well, I guess it's the whole broad picture of families being priced out. I agree what you're saying about NFL games, but even going to a Tiger games is getting a little bit high priced,
Right.
and that truly is a family type of sport, where you chill out, buy your hot dogs, but concessions are getting so high. We can go on this forever. I'm gonna get off this topic.
What do you guys make of the other 2 playoff games? I mean, Bills versus Ravens. That's what playoff football is all about. That should be an absolute awesome game. I love Lamar. We love Josh Allen. We saw him, how amazing he is earlier this year. To me, I think the better storyline for an AFC Championship game would be a rematch of Bills versus Chiefs. But Lamar Jackson, I would love it if he finally takes that step and gets to the AFC Championship game, maybe gets all the way to the Super Bowl. I think any one of those 3 teams I'd be rooting for. The Chiefs, I always love a good dominant, dynasty type stretch. The Ravens, it would be awesome to see Lamar really put a stamp on that MVP season he's had. And then Josh Allen, if he could finally get through Patrick Mahomes, that's an awesome story. So I know we're going to be waiting for whoever one of those 3 teams eventually in the Super Bowl, but I could care less who it is. Do you guys have a favorite out of those 3, and what do you think of this week's game, Bills versus Ravens?
That's going to be a heck of a game. The battle for the MVP quarterbacks. It's at Buffalo, though. Who knows what the weather's going to be like? I don't know what the line is, but I'd have to favor the Bills in that one. I think it's his year this year to maybe make it to the Super Bowl, but just my thought.
The line right now is at Baltimore -1. So I mean,
good.
Yeah, I mean, it'll probably change by the time the game comes, but yeah, I mean, weather obviously a big factor there, because we've seen the weather affect Lamar Jackson a little bit in the playoffs. But this is the one that he's got to win. If this is, the multiple MVPs, if he's about to win another MVP, you got to go into Buffalo and beat Josh Allen if you want to be up there with Patrick Mahomes and some of the other greats of the game. It's going to be an amazing one. I think the other, CJ Stroud and the Texans going into Kansas City, like, that's probably the one game. I mean, people might be saying the Lions and Commanders is a little bit of a dud, but obviously to us, that's the best game of the weekend. But I don't know. The Texans don't really do much for me. CJ Stroud's, like, he's fun to watch and stuff, but they just don't do much for me. And I just, the Chiefs have been so dominant. I just feel like that's a game. Chiefs are going to end up winning by 20 or something like that. Maybe it'll be close for a minute, but that just seems like that type of game. Chiefs are going to go in, maybe even the Texans jump out 10-0 or something like that. But then Mahomes gets it going. They end up winning 27-17, something like that or whatever. And I don't know. But it would be cool to see an upset. I just don't see the Texans doing that. The Rams one is the Rams and Eagles, because the Eagles obviously have been the team that everyone in the NFC has been on all year, as long as they've been healthy and everything. But I think the Rams offense can beat anyone. And I'm very curious to see if the Rams can pull the upset against the Eagles. I'd love to see it. But then that would be Matthew Stafford coming to Detroit after the Lions.
You know what? That is so awesome, though, that I would love it. If they truly are that damn good and they are an NFC Championship team, so be it. And all those, I'd rather, whether it's the Eagles or the Rams, both of them are damn good squads, whoever wins that game. The Eagles are just waiting to crumble, it seems like. This A.J. Brown story, I've never seen anything like this. Usually when you see something like this, the team is losing every game. They're getting killed. The fact that there's like a new negative story surrounding this guy. This week he's reading a self-help motivational book, which was probably the least of his problems thus far throughout the season. But anyway, I just can't get over how they're winning games. He's pouting. And they are almost like ignoring it as a team. Right. They're just like, AJ's going to do AJ's thing. Let's just stay focused on the rest of us and let's win. They have such a good offensive line, defensive line that it's easy when you look at their team. But my God, have you guys ever seen a story like this where they're just winning in spite of a superstar player who is openly just bitching and complaining week after week? It's blowing my mind that this is an NFL story and that they're still winning in spite of it.
It just reminds me a little bit of Antonio Brown. I mean, how his behavior was,
Yeah, I was going to say there's probably been some other receivers. I feel like T.O. Remember when T.O. was doing sit-ups in his driveway, that video? Or there's probably been some other receivers that, receivers seem to be the divas. Probably even Deion Sanders back in the day, probably had some headlines like
that.
Did
he ever do it, like, at this point of this? Like, think about this is crunch time. Like, playoffs? Like, it's just crazy to me, man.
That's what I feel like with the Eagles. Yeah, Saquon, and like you said, their offensive and defensive line, they're a really good team. It just seems like something's going to break at some point. Jalen Hurts isn't necessarily 100%, so.
Yeah. Oh, I'm rooting for the storyline of the Lions-Eagles for sure, because I do not want Matt Stafford coming to Ford Field and then totally ruining our dreams, which he could do.
Yep.
You guys admit it's pretty badass. I would obviously hate it too, but that would be pretty badass of him to come back. And I tell you what, the Rams, I mean, we were just talking about the LA wildfires. It's like, how impressive was it for them to handle? It's a lot of their houses too.
Right.
Cooper Kupp actually had a great quote right before the game, talking about how, they're all spread out different ways. Football kind of made us just take it one day at a time, put our minds on something else, focus toward a common goal. We've seen it happen before with the Boston Marathon, with the Red Sox versus Tigers, where it's like, a tragedy can happen. It can really inspire a group of guys, and the city can really just follow behind them. It's like they might be that story, and if they beat the Eagles, that's going to be full-fledged kind of the media cycle heading into that Lions game. Which, I mean, it should be, because it's crazy what's happening out there. But that would be kind of cool to see them really come together as a team with all the adversity around them and get all the way NFC Championship game against the Lions. That's the best possible scenario, right? Or you said you'd rather face the Eagles. You'd like that storyline.
I would rather face the Eagles, but let's just throw it out there. If we lost to a team, it would hurt bad for the Rams, but that is a hell of a story.
It's a cool story. I mean, we saw it with Hurricane Katrina and then the Saints. They won it that year. They went on the run. So, yeah, maybe. Even though you guys know my fandom, my love for Matthew Stafford, I would not want him to end the Lions season, man. I would hate to see that. But no, it'll be interesting to see how things shake out. And speaking of, like, we were talking about ticket prices and stuff, we posted it on Facebook and on Twitter. Saturday in Detroit is going to be, you got your bad boys shirt on there, Ted.
Yeah.
Pistons play. They moved it up to 4:00. Pistons play at 4:00 at LCA. Obviously, they play the Suns too. So that's actually, Pistons are one of the hottest team in the NBA. Maybe they play the Suns, and Durant, Chris Paul, or no, not Chris Paul anymore.
Booker.
Durant, Booker, and I was blanking. Bradley Beal coming to town, right. So the Booker thing. Booker is going to be going straight over to Ford Field after the game.
Oh yeah.
So no, what a day in Detroit, and even the Red Wings play at 7. So if you're at a bar or something like that, you can watch the Red Wings too, who are the hottest team in the NHL right now. That's a hell of a day downtown Detroit. I mean, if you can't afford the tickets to the Lions game, go catch the Pistons and then go find a spot at a bar and watch the Lions.
Yeah, and the Red Wings have won 7 straight. Right. And the Pistons, hottest team in basketball, they are 10. They won 10 and 12. I'm so thankful the Pistons moved that game up because I'm working that game. So it's gonna line up perfectly, man. We're gonna watch the Pistons get a dub against the Suns. Devin Booker will probably be wearing the Detroit Red Wings gear as he walks in. I'm already gonna be irritated about it.
Yeah.
And we get the win, and then we go watch the Lions beat the Commanders. It's a great little sports weekend. Exactly what you said. Great sports Saturday for anybody sitting at home watching on the couch.
We've been off to one hell of a start in 2025 with all our teams. When you look at Michigan State, the Red Wings, the Lions, the Pistons, I think I saw some stat on Twitter, one loss for the whole year out of all these teams.
Can you guys name the last time all 4 Detroit sports teams made it to the playoffs in the same calendar year? I'll give you 10 seconds if they got it. Give me your best guess.
I mean, it's definitely. I'm trying to. Are you going back to the 80s?
As far as you got to go back, yeah, whatever.
But the Lions wouldn't have made it back then, right?
Right. If the Lions are the kicker, I mean, you got to go either like last couple of years or like the 90s.
So I'm going to go around the time that the Lions made it with Stafford in like 08 or something, because the Pistons were still good. The Red Wings, I feel like, were still good. And that was during the Tigers, So I'm going to say around the 08, 09, something like that. I hope you have the answer. You're not just
so yeah, the answer is we've never had it. So sorry, trick question. We've had it we've had 3 teams a bunch of times. Most lately, I think 2014, we had 3 teams make it.
Okay.
Which I want to say the only team that didn't make it that year was the Pistons.
Probably the Pistons.
Never have had all 4. So it's looking like that's very possible. I mean, we never know with baseball. Like, we could line up, the Tigers could lose the first 20 games they play. Like, that's not even the craziest thing with baseball. It just seems like every year it almost is like you're hitting the reset and what type of team you'll be. But we expect them to be damn good. So this really seems to be the year to get this done if it's going to happen. Pistons already are the 6th seed. The Red Wings have won 7 of their last 8 with a new head coach. They're looking like a damn good spot. Just a game or 2 out of the playoffs. It's going to happen. So March, April is going to be freaking awesome. We're talking about good TV watching with football last month. For us, Detroiter and Michigan fans and all that type of stuff, with Michigan State good in basketball too, March and April. Ted, I don't know, your DVR remote might self-combust with all the stuff you're doing.
It's a good thing I have 3 of them.
3 DVRs.
Back up on back. Why do you have 3 of them?
That's my cable box. So I have 3 TVs hooked up to cable and they're DVRs.
Nice.
Yeah.
So it's a good way to do it. No, you need to bring back, Jared, you need to bring back the April in the D song. If when it comes around, maybe we'll have friends of the podcast. Chi-Town should record a new version of April in the D, and you can produce the promo video and all that kind of stuff. But no, it's shaping up to be really cool. We don't want to get ahead of ourselves, but the Pistons, they're rolling, and hopefully the Jaden Ivey injury, hopefully that's like the worst injury that we see from them, and they just keep things going. They should definitely make the playoffs this year in the East. Whether they can climb up to the 4 seed, that'd be pretty cool. Get out of the play-in, just get into the playoffs. That'd be cool. And hockey, I mean, the Red Wings are rolling right now, but hockey's weird, kind of like what you said with baseball. I mean, like last year, the Red Wings got on a roll and were basically in the playoffs, and then just kind of fell apart. Yeah, I mean, it's cool to watch right now. And then especially, I mean, Michigan State hoops, both basically, I'd say easily right now, it could change in a week or 2, but right now, the 2 best teams in the Big Ten. I mean, Michigan State is just on an absolute roll, but so is Michigan. Michigan's been, scoring basically over 90 a game. I mean, their offense is on a roll. So they don't play until like late February, Michigan State.
Right.
That's on the 21st.
Yeah, those games are going to be very because Tom Izzo is not going to want to lose. A new head coach coming in, Dusty May. Tom Izzo is not going to want to lose those games to a new Michigan coach.
Who is setting up the schedule, man? I don't understand. It feels like the last 3-4 years it's been like that, where we only play them at the very tail end of the year.
Yeah.
Am I crazy, or does that feel like how it's been?
Seems like it. Same with, because I was talking to some friends at work who are, like UNC and Duke fans. It's the same with that. Right? They don't play until like late February too. Seems like space them out. Have a UNC Duke game, Michigan State in like mid-January, and then have the second one basically at the end of the year.
That's how it used to be. That's how it should be if you want to keep the interest in basketball.
And I'm going to complain for 3 seconds because this is so annoying, because we're never going back. And in a theory, having basketball on every day of the week isn't a bad thing. But I miss the days of, and this was in my lifetime, man, where you could say you're watched a Super Tuesday, and mostly everybody's playing. and then Saturday everybody's playing.
Yeah.
Now it's like with Michigan, man. It's like one game is 10:30 p.m. on a Tuesday. The next one's 7 p.m. on a Wednesday. They play Michigan State. That game is on a Friday at 8 p.m. It's nuts. And it's all the different networks, taking what they can get. It's crazy to me. I'm complaining. Maybe I'm just not a good enough fan to really know exactly when they play. But it's like all of a sudden I'll see an update on Twitter. It's like halftime of a Michigan game. Like, damn, I'm like watching Yellowstone or something right now. I would have been watching the damn game. It's like, am I alone in that? I probably am. But
not at all.
Not at all. It makes it tough because you can't. I mean, like you said, unless you are just completely dialed in. Say you have alerts on your phone for when Michigan plays, it's tough to keep up. And then to keep up with the networks, like all of a sudden you're like, oh yeah, Michigan plays tonight, I want to watch it. You have to go look it up. Oh, this one's on the Peacock app. Oh, do I have a subscription to Peacock so I can actually watch this? And it is a little frustrating because especially when you have a good team like what Michigan does this year, you might want to actually sit down and watch. But yeah, now some of those on the West Coast don't tip until 10:15 or whatever. So
And it's ironic because I only watched a little bit. I actually fell asleep the UCLA game. Michigan was like losing. All of a sudden I woke up. They won by, I think, 19. It's like, what the hell happened in this game, in the last 10, 15 minutes of this damn game? But a good sign of the closeness of a team and, what I think is a good omen for March. They went on that West Coast trip. They played UCLA, USC, Washington, won all 3 games right after Christmas too, where they're probably a little sluggish. And they won all of them by double digits. To me, that's a good omen where you go on the road, you only are you and your teammates. Some teams probably just sit in their hotel rooms the entire day, but it seems like they're really gelling together well for a team that came together basically this offseason. So yeah, I love what I'm seeing. In the Michigan State, 14-2, they're looking damn good as well. They've won 9 in a row, and they were clobbering, number 16 at the time, Washington. So they're looking damn good, man. It should be an awesome, awesome rivalry. Just a shame we got to wait so long to get that game.
Right.
Yeah. And both teams should be, you can lock them in right now, depending on the draws, Sweet 16, and maybe
I
beyond.
think so.
I mean, Jared, you've talked about it a number of times, Ted, you too, all 3 of us, but Tom Izzo, we don't need to go into him. I know they've had some early exits, but he always has good tournament teams. Sometimes it just doesn't work out in the tournament. I think Michigan State will be fine, but Michigan has the formula for a team to make a run. Those 2 7-footers, I don't care who you are, that's tough to match up with. And they've actually got some shooters this year. They've got some guys that can knock down shots. When you go into a tournament, the one thing that's been harped on over and over, we don't have to get into it. They turn the ball over a lot. So that could come into play come tournament time.
It'll be their eventual undoing. At some point, could be Final Four. That probably will be what does them in.
Mm-hmm.
Right. But when you got 2 7-footers like that and dudes who can knock down shots, I would take them to make a run. But you got to get there first. It's only January 14th.
I should take a look at future bets. Michigan to Final Four. They're still only 24th in the country right now. Maybe they just jumped up a little bit on the latest rankings, but it doesn't seem crazy, man. $5.
Yeah.
Let me see if I can find the odds on that.
Yeah, I saw.
Now's the time.
Right. I think it was Andy Katz or somebody did their projections, and they had, it's whatever. Again, January 14th, who cares? But they had Michigan projected as a 7 seed in the tournament, MSU as a 4 seed, which both kind of surprised me with how they're playing right now. I was like, man, Michigan State might play themselves up to a 2 seed, depending on how they play in the Big Ten tournament. Same with Michigan, but yeah, it'll be fun. Either way, we all 3 of us do when both teams are good. The John Beilein versus Tom Izzo years when the rivalry was good. Juwan had a couple years, where Michigan was good, but when one team kind of sucks and the other team is really good, it's still fun to watch those games. But no, we want a top 10 battle. We want a top 25 battle. That actually means something.
It makes those games awesome, man. It really, those are some of my fondest memories when I was a kid, watching those basketball games. Michigan State, like you said, it's kind of lame, man. Michigan's only plus 650 Final Four odds. That's not very good odds if I'm looking at it. But then it shows how good they are. It looks like they're 1, 2, 3, 4, 8. They got the 12th highest odds, even higher than Michigan State. Michigan State plus 950. So that's so funny. Vegas, when you really want to know who the best teams are, you go to Vegas. You don't go to the top 25.
Right.
Plus their top 12 team as of now, plus 650. Honestly, I thought it'd be a little better odds. So not
make our make our Spartan listeners happy. Throw the $5 on MSU. There you go.
Well, what you do is you parlay Michigan and Michigan State to make the final four. You pray they don't end up in the same region, and that's how you make some dough.
Yeah.
Nice. Yeah, that's beyond me. I'm too conservative with my cash. Hey,
you're just talking about not joining all your Super Bowl ticket giveaways and stuff like that.
Right. Hey, before we move on for a short Tedertainment, thoughts on the national championship, Notre Dame, Ohio State, the college football playoffs. You know, I think they still do have to tweak a few things, but it's not a bad matchup, I don't think. They both got good storylines, and I'm going to probably say a statement that would be blasphemy to most Michigan fans. That number 33 for Ohio State, I like that guy. He could play for me.
He's the classic. If he was on your team, you would love him. I mean, if he was a Michigan linebacker, think about all the Michigan linebackers that you love because they're there 3-4 years.
Yep.
Michigan fans would absolutely love him, of course. But because he's for the Buckeyes and because he's 0-4 versus Michigan, you know, we can't.
That's a good way of putting it. I just I like his moxie.
Right. Yeah. He's a classic because he grew up in Columbus. So, of course, he went to Ohio State. He is a great player. He's going to be playing in the NFL. It's just because he's on Ohio State that we can't stand him. That's all. Probably the same as Ohio State fans couldn't stand Blake Corum. Ohio State fans couldn't stand J.J. McCarthy. It's the same reason. But, you know, you can take a step back and admit, the dude's a good player.
I mean, you could hate him and respect him at the same time.
Well, when that melee broke out against Michigan, I honestly, I probably should have known who the hell he was. I really didn't know who he was. I found out who he was during that game because of the interception and all that. But to me, he had some great one-liners in the melee that made me kind of appreciate the cut of this guy's jib. If you remember, he famously said, "Your season's over," as they were finally pulling away from the melee. And what an interesting career. I mean, that's an iconic play. If they win the national championship, just an iconic play that's going to live in Ohio State history forever. And then you also just think of the fact that he never beat Michigan, a national champion who never beat Michigan. It's just it's a weird predicament to be in as an Ohio State football player.
Well, what a storyline. I mean, I didn't even realize he was the very first guy Ryan Day recruited.
Right.
You know, his dad told him, hold off, don't sign. And he called in the middle of the night and said, I'm a Buckeye. And then to have that iconic play and the storyline with Michigan getting them 4 straight times, but they probably are going to win the national championship. Definitely favored. It's amazing. It is
a cool story. And, you know, we hate to admit it because it's Ohio State and I'll never root for Ohio State, but I know we talked about it last week. You guys are probably rooting for Notre Dame. Yeah, I can't pull myself to root for Notre Dame. I'm just going to sit back and watch. Whoever wins, cool. Good for you guys. I think you know, like you said, you led this off with, they're going to make some tweaks to the college football playoff. Yep. Hopefully, I don't know if it's adding teams or if they're going to reseed, you know, I don't know what they're going to do, but it's going to change in the next few years. Obviously they always tweak things. It's making me feel like these rivalries, like the game, you know, other big games that we see in college football, maybe Auburn, Alabama, you know, the Iron Bowl, some other big games. Honestly, I think they're going to start mattering less because it's going to, personally, as fans, we're always going to remember Jack Sawyer went 0-4 against Michigan. But if he wins a national title, who really cares? Mm-hmm. You know, and think about the year Michigan State beat Michigan, you know, Kenneth Walker, 5 touchdowns, but Michigan went to the college football playoff that year. So ultimately that game didn't really matter. And I feel like that could happen. Like Notre Dame didn't even have to win a conference championship. They lost to NIU earlier in the season, still in the national championship. Obviously, regular season games do matter. You can't lose 5 regular season games like Michigan did and still make the playoffs. So yes, obviously they do still matter. I think it's the point of like, if you get both teams who are already basically slated into the college football playoff, like a Michigan State, whoever wins that game, you know, maybe it matters with seeding, but I wonder if eventually conference championships and some of these rivalry games are going to matter less, you know, except for to the fans. I wonder if it's going to be like college basketball where, yes, these Michigan State college basketball games, we love them, but on February 21st, if Michigan State beats Michigan, big picture, it doesn't really matter. Michigan's still going to make the tournament. They can still make a run. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
again, as fans, we'll always love them, but Ohio State's in there saying, cool, you guys beat us. We're in the national title game.
Right. And I saw Nick Saban and Desmond Howard actually went back and forth a little bit. Basically, where Nick Saban said, we lost to Auburn one year. We won the national championship. Nobody remembered we lost to Auburn. And Desmond Howard said something like, believe me, Ohio State remembers they lost to Michigan or something like that. And it's funny. I remember when I was a kid, and we're talking about this Michigan State rivalry. I remember, and this is apples to oranges in a way, but I remember Michigan won the year we won the Sugar Bowl against Virginia Tech, like the luckiest draw of a Sugar Bowl maybe ever. We won that game, and we lost to State earlier in the season. And I think State went on. That was the year they maybe got killed by Alabama in the Outback Bowl or whatever it was. And I remember bragging at school about how Spartan Tears taste like sugar, like it's amazing. But deep down, I would have rather just beaten Michigan State that year. And I don't think Ohio State would probably wouldn't trade in beating Michigan for a national championship. But they think about it. And I'm not sold that they're going to win. I think Notre Dame is a damn good team. Like they are athletic, like SEC athletic. When I watch them play, I would say maybe the best pound for pound defense in the entire country. Couple stud running backs. Riley Leonard seems to find a way to just get it done week after week. And my favorite part of Notre Dame versus Penn State, it came out like a day later. A cornerback, I think, is who said something along the lines of Marcus Freeman wasn't happy with how James Franklin was basically trying to clown him in their presser, talking about how young he was, his hairline, and all this other crap. And they basically said that was like a rallying cry for the week. So I love that James Franklin lost. Notre Dame, I think they're a 3-1 underdog in the national championship, which is crazy that we're still getting those type of spreads in a 12-team playoff. But I love what I've seen from Notre Dame. They just seem like a tough team. And Ohio State, it's amazing, man. They've looked so damn good. I'm still not fully sold on them. I feel like that Michigan game could come at any point, especially against a good defense like Notre Dame. So I think it's going to be actually a pretty damn good game. I think. I hope. I pray that it's a good game.
Right.
Yeah. Well, let's keep our fingers crossed. All right, let's take one final break here and come back and finish with a short Tedertainment tonight. All right, guys, I'll start it off. I can't believe it. I've gone to the movie theater 2 times in the last couple of weeks. Went and saw the A Complete Unknown, the Bob Dylan story.
Oh, right.
Oh, fantastic movie.
I knew that would draw you in. Would you?
Yeah,
everybody's going gaga over Chalamet. I mean, was he as good as everybody's saying in this movie?
He was the whole thing, man. I was amazed by his performance. He had Dylan down to a T, and I didn't even realize it till afterwards when I always like to digest these movies, think about what I really think about the movie, and I did a little homework, and I didn't realize that the actors, they did all the singing, and it was fantastic. Just, I highly recommend it. The only negative I would say is, to try and cover Bob Dylan's life in a 2.5-hour movie is pretty tough. It would have been an ideal thing for maybe a 3 or 4 part series, but they did only cover from when he started in 1961 till 1965, when everybody went crazy, all the folk fans out there, when he plugged in an electric guitar and played at the Newport Folk Festival. But I couldn't give it a higher rating, though. It was really, really good. I mean, when you look at all time, it'd be interesting what your dad would think here on this, Matt. Bob Dylan, maybe the all-time greatest singer-songwriter, maybe not the greatest voice, but some of the songs he wrote when he came in the early 60s with everything that was going on in those days. One of the all-time greats. I mean, you think maybe guys like Springsteen, Paul Simon, McCartney, Lennon, those type of singer-songwriters. But Bob Dylan is so legendary. It's amazing. It even made me go to Netflix, and I'm trying to look up documentaries on Dylan. There's one with Martin Scorsese, put one together in 75. I'm going to check that out probably before the next podcast. But 3 thumbs up for the movie. It was awesome.
Nice. And Bob Dylan is one, I mean, unless you're really just a classic rock, you don't hear his name that much with those names that you listed off as far as the legends. There's always the ones that people list off, and it just seems like you don't hear Bob Dylan as much as some of those other guys, but he definitely should be. I remember the movie Walk the Line, about Johnny Cash with Joaquin Phoenix and Reese Witherspoon. That I remember being amazed that learning that they sing all the songs in that movie. So I wonder if that's it's got to be part of the casting. not only can you play the part, but you've got to be able to sing, because the only way this movie is going to look authentic is if you are actually singing. Can't go out there and lip sing, throughout a whole movie. So it's cool to hear that he was, especially Bob Dylan. That's a very specific way. That he sings.
Well, even the dialogue, he had the whole mumble down, because Dylan was famous for mumbling his stuff. A couple times I wanted closed captions, but he nailed it. He totally nailed it.
I looked up Bob Dylan like songs when I did this movie, like maybe a couple weeks ago.
Right.
I don't know any of his songs. I'm being honest. I don't know any of them.
Did you listen to some? I bet if you heard some, you would
know.
Maybe, there's probably one that but like I went through like his top 5, like most popular, at least from what I remember. I don't remember knowing a single one of them. Because usually it's like, oh, I remember that song. I'm going to save that. Like, because usually these songs have like a revival when these movies come out. Like with Queen, it felt like Queen was the most popular band for like a few weeks again. A couple things you said that really kind of draw. I can't talk today. It's the morning. My coffee hasn't set in yet. Anyway, a couple things that caught my eye of what you said.
Yeah.
What the big plot of the movie was that he plugged in an electric guitar at a folk fest, or what was the name of the folk fest? And
the Newport Folk Festival. These people were, if you did do a little homework, because that was the other thing I was going to say before you see the movie, maybe look up early Bob Dylan and some of the history, because when I said it should be maybe a 3 or 4 parter, they gloss over a few things, because you can only get so much in a 2.5 hour movie. And if you're not on top of it, you're not going to know what happened there. You know what I mean?
Right.
But yeah, these folk fans in the early 60s, you've heard of hippies. Right. They were like beatniks, these singers, songwriters would have a guitar and go play at a little coffee shop, and they'd have their diehard fans, and they had some of these folk festivals. Bob Dylan was the main draw. And in fact, Matt, you brought up Johnny Cash. Johnny Cash played at this. Johnny Cash and Bob Dylan were good buddies. But they lost their mind when he came in with an electric guitar and a rock band to play at this folk festival. It was very mixed reviews, but that kind of changed his whole career. From there, it was a whole different era of Bob Dylan songs. So it's just a fascinating artist.
It is. And I love those kind of movies too, because it takes you back. Like, I don't know, it just makes you think, like, that music. I'm sure you agree, Ted. Mm-hmm. That music is so much more timeless than like the crap that's being released nowadays. There's good stuff. I know there's some artists that we talk about that we like, nowadays, but I don't know, it's just like iconic type stuff. And it's just kind of, it's the times, whatever, but it just seems like you don't see that kind of stuff that much anymore. These dudes or bands or, female artists, whatever, that are just complete icons, Right. I don't know. Not that I'm like some big, huge Bob Dylan fan, but the story is super interesting.
Yeah, it really was. And I definitely recommend go check it out. And I was talking about some other singer-songwriters. If you go to nowadays, you got to put Taylor Swift right up there at the top too, right?
Yeah, you think so. Yep.
I got one other one. It's for all the baby boomers that listen to this podcast. I was set on top of this to check this show out. It's called A Man on the Inside. It's on Netflix. Ted Danson. It's really, really, really good. He plays this old guy that retired. His wife died. There's a detective agency that's trying to figure out something going on at a nursing home. So they hire Ted Danson, who's a former engineer, to go infiltrate this nursing home and be a detective and a private eye. It is flat out hilarious. Really, really good. Ted Danson is just awesome in it. It's geared more to probably my age group, but I think you guys would enjoy it if you give it a chance. It's really good.
What is Ted Danson? Full House or something? Or what's he from?
Cheers. He's from Cheers.
Oh, Cheers. Okay. That's a name I've heard thrown out. That's a name I've thrown out there probably a billion times in my life. Never knew who he actually was. But
there's the generation thing.
How many seasons in is this show?
First season just renewed for a second one, and I'm 3 episodes in, and I'm 100% on board. When you're watching something on Netflix and you actually laugh out loud 3 or 4 times during a show,
right.
It's a good one.
Yeah. So it's a comedy. Is it little
Yeah.
like 30-minute episodes?
30-minute episodes. The first season's only 8. You could binge it real easy on a weekend.
Right.
Yeah. I'd
Nice.
recommend. I'd give that one 3 thumbs up as well.
Nice.
So that's all I got. You guys got anything you watched this
I
last
haven't
week?
been watching anything else. I mean, we've
Other than
got a
sports?
list. I mean, I keep adding to the list of things we got to watch, but whether it's sports or just, I'm at work or whatever, haven't been watching much else. Need to get to this stuff.
Yeah,
Amen.
Landman. So nothing new. I've been following that one. I thought a little bit of a dud of a finale. If I'm being honest, but it was a solid. It was definitely worth the 1 season watch. I'll be curious to see if it has the same kind of following behind it come season 2 and 3. But for 1 season so far, I'd give it 2.5 out of 3 stars. It's been a solid watch.
Yeah, it sounds about right.
It's interesting. I'm like, now that I've been watching this, I'm getting kind of targeted Billy Bob Thornton things. Like I'm seeing one interview with Rich Eisen where he's saying his favorite sports are the LPGA and like women's tennis. It's just like he's just an interesting cat. And then in another interview, he's wearing women's jeans because apparently they fit him good. I don't know. Like, it's funny. I think of him as this like Texan, like hardcore, Republican guy, but then in actuality, this actor is probably the exact opposite. So I just think it's kind of funny, like to see the duality of this guy. He's a hell of an actor and charismatic as they come. So.
Yeah.
So you need to go watch Monsters Ball and Sling Blade. You need to watch those 2 movies. If you're getting targeted with Billy Bob, watch those
Monsters
2 movies.
Ball is very depressing. Is that true?
It is, yeah.
It is. It's pretty dark.
Right.
Yeah. But if you want to see Billy Bob and Halle Berry going at it, check it out.
All right.
And then Sling Blade is just like seeing him act, with the character that he is that's probably one of his best performances ever. Would you say, Ted?
Oh, 100%. I think he won the Oscar for it. I mean, I think so. Yeah, he was Sling Blade. There's no doubt about it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, there you go, boys. I mean, we're recording this on a Tuesday morning, so I know you guys got to get back to work, but let's call it a podcast, put it in the can, and get ready for some good football coming up. Lions Saturday night. I'm all about it. It's going to be fun. All right. I want to thank all the folks at Memorial Healthcare and their Wellness Center. Over 25 fitness classes, and you want more information, go online at memorialhealthcare.org. Also want to thank our other partners, AZee Branding Solutions, Jacobs Insurance Agency, Kori Shook & Associates Real Estate Services, Nelson House Funeral Homes, Rivals, Taphouse and Grille, Success Group Mortgage and Servicing, excuse me a second, froggy in the throat, Shiawassee County Fair, and the ALS of Michigan. The Z92.5 Game of the Week coming up this Friday, the 17th. The neighborhood battle, Corunna at Owasso. Go over to the warehouse, check that one out. If you can't make it, tune into the castle. Peace and love, everybody. Be kind. Thanks for listening, and go Lions.